And to be able to talk about the most important elements of the story and to back up and say, this is why it's important. Oh, and here's what the industry is doing. Oh, and here's what people are saying. I mean, when you only have 500 words to do that, it's tough.
Tough.
Yeah. So that kind of dictates how we choose our stories. In Japan, the kitsch sells. Stories about anime,
right.
Stories about video games.
Right.
Oddball stories or contrarian stories sell. I remember doing a story about The Lost Generation. This is a story about folks in their 20s and 30s
right.
who graduated from college right around the time when the economy wasn't doing so well. So what you saw was a lot of these folks were simply getting a job to have a job. They weren't entering into a career path. Now, 10 years later, they're still doing those part-time jobs. Most people think the Japanese economy is on the mend. It's going full throttle, and at least the foreseeable future, it looks pretty good. But these folks, they're kind of in no man's land. They're in purgatory, and I think that needs to be pointed out because this generation that I'm talking about is a mini baby boomlet, and so down the line, it could have a huge impact on the economy. That kind of I didn't know story really, I think, is the kind of thing that is edifying for our readers, at least.
Why do you think newspapers have declined so radically in America, and why are they, by contrast, still reigning supreme here in Japan?
That's a good question. I don't think that they have entirely lost their readers. In fact, I think the readers have just gone online, and
right.
So they're getting. You can get a New York Times story through Yahoo, for instance.
Sure.
You don't even have to go to the New York Times site, or you can get it from a blogger who's posted it on his website. So I don't think when people say our industry is dying, professional newspaper guys will be out of a job. I think that's not entirely correct.
I agree with that.
Your second question was about the differences between U.S. and Japanese media. It's a hard one to assess. The Japanese newspaper companies are very conservative, and it's taken them a lot longer to go online than U.S. companies, media companies.
Well, RSS feeds are commonplace among American media newspapers online, but among Japanese newspapers,
well, they're becoming more common.
Just coming now.
Yeah. As are blogs. Blogs by professional newspaper guys.
I've noticed, though, we did a survey of this. We found that the Japanese newspaper sites online do lead in one area technologically, and that's the optimization for mobile devices. It's very interesting to us.
Yeah, everyone I know gets those automated feeds that come to their cell phones. Why wouldn't they take advantage of that? Why wouldn't they have taken advantage of that earlier? I don't know.
What's the most interesting story you've ever covered as a journalist?
That is a hard one. Gosh, there's so many. There's one great story, I think, is the Tsukiji story. I think, as you know, the fish market is being relocated. I haven't done anything on that yet, but I think it's a fascinating story. It involves culture, it involves economics, it involves politics. If you can tell that story in a narrative, that's a home run. Best stories that I've covered, the most memorable ones, I think, are some of the ones that I covered at AP. When I first joined, there was a U.S. naval submarine that surfaced under a Japanese fishing boat.
I remember that.
That happened in the early part of the year, I believe, back in 2000 or 2001. And I flew out to Hawaii for that. There was a lot of tears shed by the families. Obviously, the families had taken the trip and gone out to Hawaii. The Navy was trying to figure out how to control the PR cycle.
Yes.
You had a submarine commander who wanted to apologize, and to meet with the families, but the families wanted an apology,
Right.
a formal apology, and he couldn't give it to them for legal reasons. He also had some sort of a military court that was trial that was pending. So it made it very difficult for him to come right out and speak his mind. That was a really difficult story to cover because there's so many angles to it.
Presumably the difficult stories, though, are the most worthwhile in terms of, enjoying the professional challenge of getting the story right.
Exactly. And I think that the one thing that really paid off in that story was you got to profile the people. Again, I'm coming back to our original point, and that's that the people are the people and their personalities and the anecdotes are the ones that drive the news stories, I think, and make the most compelling news stories, at least.
Just one last question for you, Kenji. Do you think that you'll be doing this longer term as a journalist in Japan, or do you think that you'll be returning to the United States at some point?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think, having been here for 9 years, I think that the people who are here for a long time are generally the best at assessing what makes a good story and what doesn't, and filling in the details, the background. At the same time, I would like to go somewhere else.
Right.
I've been itching to go someplace else. And yet I know that once I'm there, it's going to take a while to build up an understanding of how the society works. The advantage of being here for a long time is I know where to go when a story breaks. I know who to talk to. I know what cultural details are important and what's not. And I think you'll find that some of the best reporters here have been here for quite a while. I don't know if I can name those people on camera, but generally I'd say guys like Martin Fackler at the New York Times, Yumiko Ono at the Wall Street Journal. I mean, these folks really know their stuff. They really know the country. They really know the business. And I think if you want an entertaining story, those are the folks whose stories you should read.
Well, I'm told the same thing about you. So, Kenji, we really appreciate your time on the show today.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Bob.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Kenji. And on our next program, we're going to be having another journalist sharing her perspectives and expertise as well. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.